Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to the respected guests and audience. I am Budi Setio, Vice Rector in Cooperation, Innovation and Development, Bogor Ibn Khaldun University. We apologize because the lift doesn't work. Yes. Very grateful to welcome you to this roundtable discussion entitled Emerging Trends in Multidisciplinary Research and Whole University Engagement in WAS, organized by Center for Environmental Studies, Bogor Ibn Khaldun University. I feel privileged to open this event and stand here where many researchers, young researchers here, who I admired and looked up to once stood. A very special welcome to our special guest, Professor Dr. Juliet Willett from University of Technology, Sydney, who has spared her time to come to our beloved university. I think she is a recognized expert in water and sanitation in Asia and the Pacific. Dr. Tim Foster, thank you very much for your coming. A research director at the Institute for Sustainable Future. His research tackles global water and sanitation challenges in pursuit of Sustainable Development Goal 6, safe water and sanitation for all. Ms. Diana, as part of the team from Aquaya, yeah? Thank you very much for your coming. And then Dr. Mova Al-Afghani from Center of Regulation, Policy and Government, and also as lecturer here in Bogor Ibn Khaldun University. Honorable, the chairman of UIKA Foundation, Dr. Ridi Hilman, thank you very much. We also welcome all of participants here from Faculty of Health here, Faculty of Engineering, Faculty of Education, yeah, Faculty of Law, Faculty of Economic and Business, and so on. Water sanitation and hygiene are fundamental aspects of human being and development. Access to clean water and proper sanitation facilities is not only essential for personal health, but also for the prosperity and sustainability of communities and nations alike. Yet, despite progress in various areas, millions of people around the world still lack access in safe drinking water and adequate sanitation services, leading to devastating consequences for health, education, and economic growth. This discussion serves as a platform for us to exchange knowledge, experiences, and best practices in the field of water, sanitation, and hygiene. Throughout the sessions, we will hear from experts from you all, researchers, practitioners, and policymakers who are at the forefront of this critical work. We will explore the latest advance in technology, discuss successful intervention strategies, and identify challenges and opportunities for improvement. Moreover, these discussions provide us with an opportunity to reaffirm our commitment to the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly Goal 6, safe water and sanitation for all, which aims to ensure the availability and sustainability management of water and sanitation for all by 2013. By coming together today, we demonstrate a collective dedication to achieving these ambitious targets and leaving no one behind. I encourage all participants to actively engage in discussions, share insights, and forge new partnerships. Let us harness the power of collaboration and innovation to drive meaningful change in the realm of water, sanitation, and hygiene. And for the next session, I give time to the moderator, Dr. Rimun Wibowo. Time is yours. Thank you very much.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to today's roundtable discussion, emerging trend in multidisciplinary research and world university engagement in WAS, water, sanitation, hygiene. We are thrilled to have you join us from various sectors of background to share your insight and experience. We are invaluable to this conversation. A special welcome to our distinguished resource person, Professor Juliet Willett, Dr. Tim Foster, Dr. Mova, who is an expert in water, sanitation, and hygiene, in all aspects, I think, regarding that words. We are incredibly fortunate to have Professor Juliet, Dr. Tim Foster, and Dr. Mova with us to guide us discussion and provide expert analysis. Today, we aim to explore innovative trends in multidisciplinary research and the role of entire university communities in water, sanitation, and hygiene initiative. And your contribution will be crucial in sharpening our understanding and outcome. Thank you for all being here. Your presence and participation today reaffirm the importance of this topic and our commitment to make progress through open dialogue. Let's make the most of our time together and ensure the productive and engaging discussion. I would like to invite our resource person. Please join me welcoming Professor Willett, Dr. Tim Foster, and also Dr. Mova to the podium. Ini mic-nya gimana ya? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now without further ado, let's dive into our first topic, Introduction to Emerging Trend in WAS. We have 4 topics here, and the second topic, World University Engagement. The third topic is Challenge and Opportunities, and the fourth topic is Global Perspective and Local Action. So we have discussed with all of our resource persons, agreed that maybe we will discuss one by one topic in very limited discussion, yeah, maybe. Because for one topic, then all of you, we can explore, yeah. Again, now without further ado, let's deep dive into first topic, yeah, Introduction to Emerging Trend in Water Sanitation and Hygiene. Please, floor is first for Professor Juliet, yeah.
Thank you for the chance to be here today. It's very nice to be in a small setting, and we hope to hear questions and have discussion. We don't have all the answers, and so I hope we can also hear from you. So in terms of trends in water sanitation and hygiene, I thought I would respond to this question with a focus on sanitation. For a long time, the focus on sanitation, especially in cities, has been making plans to build sewerage. And often those plans never come into any kind of reality. So we have big master plans drawn up of how we're going to organize the sewerage, but it is a very, very expensive thing to do. And so more recently, within the last kind of about 3 to 5 years, there's been a focus amongst researchers and amongst also the development banks like the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank to shift to focusing on what people are calling citywide inclusive sanitation. And the idea here is that we agree with ourselves that maybe cities won't all become covered with sewage, that solution may be too expensive, and actually also from an environmental and climate change perspective might not be the best solution. It might be better for us to recycle water in smaller loops in parts of cities, and it might be that we have to continue to use on-site sanitation like a lot of what we have here in Indonesia. We have on-site sanitation with septic tanks and with chubluks. Chubluks.
Yeah. You know well chublu, yeah?
We've done lots of research on chubluks.
Yes.
So the change in thinking is to change from thinking about big infrastructure projects to thinking more about how we engage to make sure that low-income households can have access to services, that we're looking at the whole chain. So for on-site systems, there is the sludge captured at the household level, but then it cannot stay there. We need to empty that on some kind of basis, and then it has to be taken somewhere. And we don't want it to go into the river. We want it to go to a place where it will be properly treated and where the nasty pathogens, the disease-causing pathogens that are in it, that we can remove those so that we can recapture the nutrients, perhaps other substances. Sometimes from sludge you can also create energy. So there's many ways to use it as a valuable resource. So there's a real change in thinking from this kind of infrastructure, big scale, to instead thinking about tailored solutions that will be different and look different in different cities, and that will use much more diverse technologies and management arrangements to cover that whole sanitation chain. And one of the most important things is about thinking about it as a public service. So here in Indonesia, I know from working here for maybe 10 or 15 years, there was a perception of sanitation, it's a private thing. Looked after, they should build their chubluk, they should be responsible for that. But really it's a public service because it is something that's important to protect public health in a city, to protect environmental health. And so another of the changes is to say it's really a public service that governments have a mandate to lead. Maybe they don't need to deliver everything, there could be private sector or other entities involved, but that the leadership should come from government to look after the whole city, and it shouldn't just be something that's in the private realm. So I'll leave it there as one example of a trend.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Juliet, your insightful contribution on this topic. Now, for you, Dr. Tom Foster, Tim Foster.
Thank you. So I might focus my response on the rural water sector, so water supplies in rural areas. And I think there are emerging innovations in a number of aspects. So the first, I would say, globally, rural water services have been a challenge for many decades, particularly around how to operate and maintain water services in remote rural areas where that are often hard to reach, and people have historically have had low incomes. And so I think there are emerging innovations around the institutional setup and also the management of those systems, particularly in terms of the professionalisation, how service providers are incentivised through performance-based arrangements, whether it's performance-based contracting or financing or both, as well as, I guess, examples of emerging regulatory systems that apply to rural areas. So that's more in the realm of practice, innovative practice. I think there are a number of innovations in the research space. So just very briefly, I think technology is always evolving, and I think as time goes by, we are getting more efficient and effective solar pumping technologies, water treatment technologies. There's, I think, innovation in terms of water quality testing and the ability to detect microbial contamination in almost real time, as well as methods around pathogen detection, so the ability to detect and quantify pathogens in different environmental media, for example water, or elsewhere in the environment. I think AI, artificial intelligence, has great potential, particularly the ability to predict outcomes or issues of concern in very complex water and sanitation contexts, with the ability to recognise patterns well beyond, I guess, more conventional analytical approaches. And then lastly, in terms of innovation, I think there is great opportunity to apply experimental study designs to rural water services and the interventions that could improve those. And I think that's an area that hasn't been fully explored to this point, and there's an opportunity to do that.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Tim Foster, your valuable perspective. And the last resource person, please, Dr. Mofa.
Thank you, Pak Liman. I think the role of political economy is a bit overlooked. Usually donor practice governance perspectives, so they try to apply a certain governance framework to certain institutional settings, but that doesn't always work, because sometimes the governance solution is always taking from some template somewhere else around the world and trying to implement it, but it just doesn't work here. There's nothing new with political economy, but I think WASH political economy probably started getting into the literature around 2000 something, 2010, 2011. But this is what we are currently trying to do, what I'm currently trying to do also in several projects. So looking why governance fail, why the legal system fails, and what are the constraints of each institutions, and also the social capital, and also the political circumstances that makes it fail. So I think, so probably political economy should become a trend somehow.
Okay. Okay, thank you everyone for your insightful contribution to this topic. It is clear we have a range of valuable perspective, and please be patient, everyone. After we finish 4 topics, then we will give you a chance for question and answer. Yeah. So let's now shift our focus to the next area of discussion, which is world university engagement. I believe this will build nicely on what we have just covered. Again, I would like to invite Professor Juliet and Dr. Tim Foster and Dr. Mofa. We would be grateful if you could lead us into this next topic, focusing on strategy for involving all university sector in WASH initiative, and maybe you can give us a case study, yeah, from successful university lead WASH program. For yours.
Okay, so maybe I'll just give a few thoughts on this. To me, to do different forms of applied research where people from different faculties join together to try and address a problem together can be one way to foster collaboration, to bring different views to the same project. And in some of our collaborations, both with Pakmova, but also with Universitas Indonesia, they have brought together people from the economics faculty, from the sociology, from engineering, together in the same project. And I think it makes us much more versatile, and you can have exchange of different types of knowledge to bring them all to look at the same problem together. Another idea that we have in our university in Australia is that that we have faculties like you have here. We have social sciences, we have engineering and IT, we have science, and all of the undergraduate students, in addition to doing their mainstream, they also do what's called transdisciplinary courses. And those courses have a much broader scope. A lot of them are focused on sustainability, sustainable development, or in this case it could be around issues to do with water. And again, they try to help broaden, I guess, the perspective of the students, so they're not just narrowly thinking about their own discipline, but they can think about it in a much wider context. And particularly, I think, say, engineering students, for them to really think, well, what's the ethics of what I'm doing, and what are the human elements of what I'm doing? And maybe I don't have the skills to solve those things, but other people may have those skills. So I think there are ways in both undergraduate teaching, but also through applied research, that we can try to work across disciplines on this topic.
Yeah, thank you again, Prof. Juliet. Now, chance for Dr. Tim, yeah, would be particularly enlightening. Could you please share your thoughts on this issue? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Look, I think to echo Juliet, there are different ways to approach interdisciplinary water and sanitation research challenges. And I think there are different examples, and all of which are successful in their own right. So, for example, Juliet and I, we sit within an institute called the Institute for Sustainable Futures, and we work on projects across a whole range of different disciplines, whether it's public health, engineering, environmental science, social sociology, and we do that within teams that have different skill sets, but we all sit within the same institute, and a lot of us would consider ourselves to be I guess interdisciplinary researchers at an individual level, and we would work on different things, but we all have particular disciplinary backgrounds. So that's one way to approach it. I think there are other examples where interdisciplinary research programs will sit within a particular faculty and draw on expertise from other faculties within the university. One that springs to mind is the Water Security Initiative at Oxford University, which has long been based out of the School of Geography and Environment, and that will draw on expertise from other parts of the university, particularly with some of their large grant-funded programs, one of which is called REACH, which has been a really productive program over many years. And then there are other, I think, approaches that are based out of engineering schools. I think in the US that's relatively common, so Stanford springs to mind, University of Colorado Boulder springs to mind as being programs based out of an engineering faculty, and then also public health. So University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill is probably the best example of a WASH program that is based in a public health school or global health school, and Emory University in Atlanta is another. So there are different ways to do it in terms of where institutionally that expertise sits, and also whether people are focused on specific disciplines that are drawn together for an interdisciplinary team, or individuals that themselves can work in an interdisciplinary way across different aspects as well. So different ways to do it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Tim Foster. Okay. Now move to Dr. Mova. Hopefully, Pak Mova can explain success story, yeah?
Well,
case study, success story, because now it's being happen, yeah?
Yeah.
Please, Pak.
Okay,
because
thank you.
Pak Mova also know well the nature of Indonesia University,
Yeah.
mostly in private university. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly true. Thank you, Pak Raymond. I think the nature of our university, we're not set up in schools usually, so we don't have like a school. I mean, when I had my PhD in Scotland, we had a school of environmental science or something, environmental and policy. So anyone from different kinds of discipline can gather and do is a part of that school. So our water center was a part of that school as well. But it's quite difficult in Indonesian universities. So probably the way to do it is to mainstream it through, first, I think universities usually have a roadmap for research. I think WASH could be a part of that research roadmap. Secondly, also through our research programs. I mean, I know that there are a lot of grants, not really major grants, and small grants from DICTI, and if we could apply those grants and use it for WASH, and also from the matching fund program, for example, there's a lot of opportunity to use matching fund for WASH, because it's a major issue, either for water utilities or technology companies, engineering companies, or for donor. And thirdly, the KKN, I don't know what's it in English, kuliah kerja nyata itu apa ya bahasa Inggris? Community service. Community service, yeah. Because the students have to do like a community service, right? They go to the village. But I think we can make like WASH as a theme for the community service. The engineering one can do something related to engineering, the legal ones could do something with village regulations, the economics ones can help the CBO management with their bookkeeping, the faculty of environmental health can do something with sanitary inspection, but it's all WASH. So I think the thing why I like water and WASH a lot is because it cannot be answered by one single discipline. It has to be interdisciplinary.
Okay, thank you. Again, thank you for everyone for your insightful contribution on this whole university engagement topic. Yeah. Now, let's shift our focus to the next area of discussion, which is challenges and opportunities. Yes, collaboration is easy to see, yeah, but difficult to to implement. So please elaborate about this topic, yeah, challenges and opportunities in research, yeah, in research in WASH aspect or sector. Please, Prof. Julia, or we can exchange. Don't, Dr. Tim?
Sure. I can go. So challenges faced in interdisciplinary research. So I think one of the challenges with interdisciplinary research is the balance between breadth and being able to incorporate and consider different disciplinary perspectives in the work you're doing, because as Mova said, it really is naturally such and interdisciplinary set of issues that we face with water and sanitation, but also doing enough justice to the depth that's needed within those disciplines, and it's always a trade-off. Any project has a finite amount of time, resources to implement the project, and so striking that right balance is a tricky thing to do, and you need a bit of both. You need sufficient depth, you need sufficient breadth. But I think, the interdisciplinary research and interdisciplinary partnerships is sort of a long game, and it's really requires good, trustful relationships among different partners as well, and that doesn't happen overnight. It requires a long-term commitment to partnership, and that's within research teams, but also beyond with other stakeholders, because as well as being interdisciplinary, WASH involves a lot of stakeholders beyond just the research team. So maybe I'll stop there.
Okay. Maybe Pak Mofa?
Okay.
Because
Yes, I am.
2 times, the first time, yeah?
Yeah,
So right now,
yeah.
switching.
But what if they say all my ideas? That's the problem with being
Okay, please, Pak Mofa.
Okay, then I'll go with the challenges first, and Juliet can answer the opportunities. I think the challenges is we have to be really good in our own discipline first. We have to really know the law, because I'm coming from law background. So you cannot be mistaken about the law. Secondly, the technical aspects of it is quite difficult for a non-sector person to understand. Say, for example, I don't know, anybody knows what CTPS means in here? Or STBM? Which faculty are you from? FICAS. Environmental Health. What is STBM? Great, that's a FICAS.
Community-led total sanitation.
CLTS, community-led total sanitation. Because you're FICAS. But they don't teach that in law school. No. What is a bronchaptering, for example? What is bronchap? Does anybody know from the engineering faculty? Thank you, Burfer. Of course. IHE Delft graduate, of course you know. Yeah, so this kind of technical, which the knowledge is actually on each different faculties, but then if you want to work interdisciplinary, we just have to know those things. And it's not easy to learn if we are coming from different kinds of backgrounds and things that we don't teach at our faculties. Thank you.
Okay.
So I might add, this is an area that I think is both a challenge and an opportunity. So we're using the term interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary a lot. And one of the things we've spent a lot of time at our institute thinking about and talking about is transdisciplinary research. And there are 2 things that are a little bit different in transdisciplinary research as compared to the other 2. The first one is around that it's very engaged in terms of valuing all different knowledges, but also the knowledge that's carried by stakeholders within society, and is designed to engage them throughout a research process and to value the knowledge that they might bring a research process. And the other is that the disciplines are meant to interrogate one another. And so often, once you've been trained in a certain way of thinking, you start to believe that if you answer questions in using the methods that you know, that will give you some form of truth or the real answer. But in transdisciplinary research and having people with different disciplinary backgrounds, the idea is to really have even a higher level of critical thinking to question, well, how certain are we of that answer? And is that only actually a partial answer to a bigger question? And being able to interrogate how certain we are about the answers we're producing through research. So to me, this idea of transdisciplinary research, it's more difficult again because you're bringing in additional actors and additional bigger questions. But to me, that's also a great opportunity, because if we want research to influence change, then we need to be valuing the other forms of knowledge that exist in society, not just that of researchers. And we also need to be questioning the answers that we come up with and have some humility to realize that we're only ever getting partial answers to the questions we're answering.
Yes, WASH is WASH research, I think naturally it should be interdisciplinary or transdisciplinary. But beside the challenge, actually, what's the opportunities for the future in this? Because naturally it should be integrated or multidisciplinary science or aspect, because talking about the WASH is actually start from the upper to the lower, yeah, and regard the social or also environment actually.
Yeah.
Yes, environment aspect is actually very broad aspect, right?
Yeah.
And in the lower aspect or in the project beneficiary, there is so many social and institution aspect. So actually the opportunities look like very, very open, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. Could you insight about
I can
this
maybe,
issue?
I can maybe just give an example of one of the research projects that we're doing at the moment. And so it's focused on climate resilience of rural water supply. And we're looking at it both from the perspective of the physical, so when we have floods, when we have droughts, what are the impacts on the actual water system, so the pipes, the pumps, the actual physical water system. What are the impacts on, in this case, the community management group that is responsible to try and keep that service functioning? What are the, is that thunder? Thunder. It's very scary. Is it drumming?
Sound system.
Feedback, okay. Okay, so understanding the water system. But what we found is that the land use practices in a catchment directly impacts the water resources on which the rural water supply relies. And so I think the opportunity is to stretch the boundaries of the project to take in other important factors, with the risk being, like Tim said, that you spread so thin that you cannot go deep. So it's a constant dance between going broad enough to make sure you capture the most important issues to what you're looking at, but then being able to go deep enough that you can find some answers that are valuable and useful for society.
Okay, thank you again for your insightful contribution. These three topics, and then now we are shifting to the last topic. Global perspective and local action. Maybe as present in the backdrop, we're focusing on how global trend in WASH can be adopted to the local context. And the second subtopic is the role of university in bridging global idea with the community-based action. Now start from Pak Mova.
The global trends, I think everything now is about climate. That's the most important trend. And that's what I've been doing. But I mean, really, and water is really at the center of climate. Hydrogeological disasters are rapidly increasing. We have tremendous major floods in Indonesia and landslides, and it destroys quite a lot of water infrastructure. In fact, during the seminar, one of my students actually told her about when we have drought, we don't have water. When we have the rainy season, when we have floods. So that is an emerging trend, and it sort of compels us to actually even broaden the scope. When we're dealing with climate, I mean, we can't just deal with the single infrastructure. So, we have to, I think, put and add more disciplines into the table. Yeah.
Thank you. I guess one of the, I think, really effective ways of bridging sort of global trends and local action and adapting global insights to local realities is, I guess, global partnerships. And I think a good example of that is the Real Water Program, which is a USAID-funded research initiative that's led by Acquire, and that's why Dana's here this week representing them. And that program is operating across 13 countries globally, and is really trying to advance thinking around how rural water services are delivered. And I think that provides a really golden opportunity to draw on global insights, what's happening in different parts of the world, new ideas, and then I guess filtering them through the lens of the local realities with partners here in Indonesia, and as well with consultation, discussions, engagement with government to ensure that a research plan, whilst it may draw on global experience and learning, it is adapted and suitable and appropriate for the local context and the local challenges. The one thing I would add to that is that I actually think it's a two-way street, because I think Indonesia has a lot of great lessons and learnings from the rural water sector that can be drawn on in international context, so other countries learning from what Indonesia has done in the rural water sector. So I consider that sort of bridge as being a two-way street.
Thank you. Now, please, your thoughts on this issue.
So my thoughts on this, I think I'll maybe come back to something Mova said at the beginning, which was he talked about templates of governance being kind of transplanted into new country contexts and how that doesn't work. So I think definitely in bringing on board any ideas, particularly in the institutional realm, there's the questions about understanding political economy, understanding the culture and behaviours, because that will absolutely influence whether or not certain ideas or practices are actually successful in a new context. And on the role of universities, I had 3 or 4 roles that I think that universities can and should play. So one is about bridging theory and practice, and so being able to continue to engage with academic literature and theoretical frameworks and think about what those mean in practical reality, and to feed back and improve those theories and ideas. I think there's a lot that can be done that's valuable in that realm. Another is to bring rigour to the evidence base. A lot of governments, for instance, outsource analysis to consultants of all different types. Sometimes that analysis is very good quality, other times it's not at all. And so I think that universities have a role to bring rigour and quality to the evidence base on which society makes decisions and that policymakers make decisions. A third role for universities would be to make sure that they're teaching the latest thinking in a particular area. And one initiative in the water and sanitation sector, which I think is really fantastic, is that people have realised that in universities, in engineering departments, mostly what's taught for sanitation and wastewater is about centralised treatment plants. Whereas the realities are that most of the systems are smaller scale systems. And so UNESCO, IHE Delft have been developing materials which can be used by and taught in any university in low and middle income countries where these other technologies are more prevalent, and it's much more suited. So I think as I say, another role for universities is to be at the edge of the latest thinking and to be able to be passing that on to students. And lastly, it's a role, I guess, within networks, within collaborations at national level or local level, to place academia as amongst civil society voices, government voices, and to be, I guess, a trusted partner for all of those groups. I think we can help bridge. Sometimes when you have civil society and governments together, things can become more adversarial. And as researchers, we can play a role by bringing evidence to the table, by being trusted by government staff, and also understanding community realities and help to provide a bridge and a better understanding between different stakeholders.
Okay, thank you. So it seems in this research need leadership, Pak Mova.
You're not looking here.
Yeah.
He looked right
Because
at you.
multidisciplinary engagement, all parties need leadership. Yeah. Okay. Give applause to the participants. Thank you for Prof. Juliet, Dr. Tim. Sorry. Always because
shall we
team,
just-
because
we could
team
call- we
in
could call-
Indonesia is team.
Team.
Team is
A
mean
team, yeah,
yes,
a group of people.
Yes,
We could
yes.
call him Tom instead. Or
So I think it's Team Foster. I think it is a group.
It's the
before.
group foster.
Yes.
Okay, we can all be group foster.
And also Dr. Mufa, yeah, very instructive and very insightful contribution on for topic. And let's now shift to the next session is question and answer. I'm sure all audience is already a lot of note and to be answered, to be asked to the resource person. Please, I give for the first round is 2 from women and 2 is from men.
Nice one.
Oke, itu dulu tadi. Pak, Bu siapa?
Fanny.
Fanny.
Yes.
Fanny dari mana, Bu?
Fakultas Ilmu Kesehatan. Fikes. Public Health.
Oh, oke. Terus Ibu yang sebelah? Humaira. Oh, Humaira. Oh iya. So okay. And then Pak Budi. Pak Budi. The last one on this round dari bapak-bapak. Mau diambil ini kuota? Pak Gun, Pak ini. Percaya ya? Oh. Okay, please Bu Fanny. Yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon. Concerning about the community lit total sanitation, this project was conducted by World Bank about 16 years ago in Millennium Development Goals period. And now in Sustainability Development Goals period, is this method still available, and how to create innovation for this project? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Continue, Ibu Humaira.
Wabarakatuh.
Salam.
Thanks for the opportunity. Maybe I want to share a little about our finding in our research. One of the area in Bogor, when we came, we do the health promotion, and then we found that the boom desk, it is used to build ladder and also road to lead people to go open defecation in the river. I mean, from the first seminar, I hear from Dr. Mova that we don't have the regulation to advocate the sanitation as a service, which is, in this opportunity, I want to ask, what can we say to BUMDes and our local government to advocate that health promotion and sanitation is important? Maybe that's it. Thank you.
Okay, last, Pak Budi.
Before I give question, I would like welcome Dr. Dorina. Yeah. As a representative of local government, Bogor City. Oh. Yeah. She is as Secretary of Housing and Settlement Agency. Thank you very much for your coming. I have three questions. Structure based on community, because we want to support the local ODF, yeah, defecation. In low-income people around the river. Maybe you have best practice, yeah. Please. The second question. And the second question, as you know, that people more happy if every program from the government free of charge, right? Is it possible to motivate people for willingness to pay, yeah, for every program created by government? And then the third question for Dr. Mova, and the second question for Professor Juliet. Yeah? And third question for Dr. Nova, as you know that when you support the government to make regulation or policy, there are two approaches, yeah? Bottom-up approach and top-down approach. Which one more better regarding the WAS, yeah, regulation? Thank you very much.
Do you want me to go first? I'll do the yeah. I can do the question about STBM. So you're right that program was introduced a long time ago at the time of the Millennium Development Goals, and the biggest focus was on this change from open defecation to using a toilet. And I would say it's still relevant for that step of changing mindset, changing behaviour. But it's insufficient, because we know that there's so much more that's then needed to build toilets that have proper quality, that aren't going to just pollute the local environment and aren't going to be in themselves a public health risk, and we need to continue to follow the rest of the sanitation chain of both the liquid and where does it end up. Does it end up in shallow groundwater that people are drinking? Does it end up in does the liquid end up, do people have a pipe which goes to the drain and then it's in the surface water? So there's a lot more to sanitation than just this first step of mindset or behavior change to use a toilet. So I think it's still relevant, but we should be adding other aspects to our focus in sanitation. And you asked for, any innovations. One of the, just to do with the behavior change part, the innovations I've seen was programs that used kind of cultural stories, dances, etc., to try and change ideas and behaviors around sanitation. And I think that can be very powerful. Sometimes we get too focused on like a health-based message and giving people lots of information and thinking they'll change, but instead tapping into the ideas that societies have and using different cultural avenues to change thinking, I think is another possibility. So I leave, maybe I can answer the other question after. Yeah.
Okay. Would the appropriate one to answer how to tell to the BUMDes, Pak Mova or Pak?
That's about behavior, though.
Multidisciplinary.
Yeah, maybe Juliet or Tim could correct me, or Bulorin could correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, I think the issue is about slippage probably, because they should be open defecation free. I think probably they should be, because the SDG target is ODF by 2030 for the whole world, right? So, but the issue is slippage, the people coming back to their old behaviors, and we need to identify why that is, why this issue emerges. So, I don't know if you have any insights on that. That's the first. The second thing is, I think we are not using enough of the power of religion to solve the wash issues. Because I think in your presentation, 50% was it of the groundwater is contaminated, or water sources from any source that are about 50% are contaminated by E. coli, which is fecal contamination. It should. I mean, I don't know whether it's ideal. I don't think it's ideal to be used for ablution. And the religion is quite strong about cleanliness, being that in a part of faith. So we can tell that, institutionalize that in BUMDes. I went to Pulau Ende for about 2011 or 13. The ustaz there give very, very strong. So every Friday prayers, they remind the audience about cleanliness. And then they recite the hadith and the Quranic verses that you have to be clean. Do not defecate in the open, because if you defecate in the open and somebody else is using that for ablution, then you would be sinful. I think that's a very, very powerful message. But so we need to integrate that wash into probably the Friday prayers, and it's also because it's related to public health issue. And I think the university is best situated for that if you want to go forward with that.
Okay, thank you, Pak. I think now time for you to respond. Innovative technology.
I might, if it's okay, I might swap a question with Juliet, because I'm a water person, Juliet's an everything person. So the innovative technology around sanitation along the river, I think Juliet's probably best placed to answer that one, but I'll have a go at the willingness to pay question.
Oh, okay. Okay. So
because, so I think that's one of the hardest questions in water and sanitation, and I think it's the crux of so many challenges and issues with sustainability, is how to raise the money you need to operate and maintain a system, and how to ensure you have enough in the account so that if you need to replace or rehabilitate any part of the system, you've got the funds to do so. I think in the current sort of global policy environment, generally in rural water supply, there is an assumption that government or development partners will pay for the capital expenditure. They'll pay for the infrastructure. maybe the communities will be expected to pay a small contribution, but often it's in kind, so through labour and voluntary time to help construct the system. But policy globally generally would assume that all the operation and maintenance costs have to be funded by the users. But we know in reality there are a very high proportion of communities that do not collect enough money, and that's irrespective of which part of the world you're looking at. And you know, for Pamsimas schemes here in rural Indonesia, you know, there's only a third or so that would collect enough to cover operation and maintenance and more. So it's a big issue. It's a big issue in Australia, North America, Europe as well. The way they deal with it is that often there's big subsidies from the government flowing in to I guess, bridge the gap. So it is an issue. So I think the three things I would say that can help. One is if you provide a good service, or if a CBO or BUMDES can provide a very good service, then that is a good enabler for high levels of revenue collection or people being willing to pay. Whether it solves all the problems or not is another matter. I think it's really important, but may not be sufficient as it of itself, because there will always be people that, or a subpopulation that will struggle to pay or don't value the service enough to pay. Particularly, in communities where there are alternative water sources, like people have their own well they've already invested in, people prefer the taste of refill water, so forth. So it's always a bit of a challenge. I think another thing that can help is cross-subsidies within systems, if they're large enough, so that households that really struggle, the lower income households, the more disadvantaged households, may not be required to pay as much, and so there's other wealthier households that can kind of cross-subsidise, and that can happen organically, it can happen through formal structures as well. And I guess the third element is regulatory mechanisms, bylaws, ensuring that there's sort of a legal status behind any tariffs that are levied, and along with that, I guess a sensitisation process at the outset, so people's expectations are such that they are, when they get a connection, they know that the obligation is to pay. But having said all that, it's very hard.
Actually, based on your global experience or research, what the root cause or root problem, it is very difficult to willing to pay about that, because actually it is basic need, but why? It is because income or habit or what?
Probably all of those things. I think alternative water sources has a big role to play. I mean, if your only water source is, a Pamsimas pipe supply, and you're threatened with disconnection if you don't pay, then you're probably going to pay. So it's alternatives. I think it's the quality of the service. If a service is providing 2 hours of water a day, the quality is questionable, then I think that's a big determinant, and people are less likely to pay. And there, I think in some cases it is an issue of income. I mean, there's a debate about whether affordability or willingness to pay is the bigger issue, and I guess it's not a clear delineation between those things. It's a bit of a spectrum, but certainly income, I think, does play a role.
Or maybe because still any option, like toll road is always increase, but we should pay because no choice. Also electricity, even maybe, because if we don't pay the electricity, then switch off. And then everybody would like to pay. Or on that one maybe, because still any option. We have no toilet, but we can go to the river. That one or what? Yeah. Maybe, yeah. It is my crazy question.
I think it's a great point. I think, that whether or not people have other options is a big determinant. I mean, you mentioned, say, electricity, prepaid meters. They switch off, you lose the service if you don't pay, and I think In some countries, prepaid water meters have been used to try and address the issue of non-payment. In some countries, that's been very divisive, and South Africa is a country where, when prepaid meters were introduced, there were all sorts of legal battles about whether or not it was constitutionally legitimate for them to do so. So prepaid metering has worked in some places, but is controversial in others.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Yeah, you will add?
Can I just add one more thing on the willingness to pay? I think there's also just, and this comes back to speaking this morning about transparency, I think if we can better clarify and convey all the costs involved in providing the service so that the people have a better understanding of that. I think often, you see, if you're used to piped water, you see it arrive in your house, but there's many, many steps, and whether that's taking school children to visit Pedam and to understand what's involved, or sharing more of the financial information more publicly, I think, because the reality is there are costs involved in providing the services. So I think, people are more willing to pay if there's an understanding of that they don't just think that's money used for corruption or some other thing, that it's actually important for providing the service.
Okay, you will continue.
And my last one, I will continue on to the sanitation question. So you asked for innovation. I guess first to say what's been used in low-income areas in cities in Indonesia has been the Sanimas program, which is about connecting up 30 or 50 households with pipes to a decentralized system that's quite a low-tech, if you like, technology system. It's just anaerobic. It lets the water flow through that, and it does at least some primary treatment. And I think we shouldn't throw that away. Those systems haven't been 100% successful, but in my view that's mostly because they're given to communities themselves, the low-income communities, to manage, whereas the government needs to stay much more involved in supporting them, in financing larger repairs, in looking after the asset in the long term. And so, to me, it's the institutional setup around those systems that should change rather than the technology. That said, the technology is it only really offers primary treatment for the fecal waste. And ideally, you would take, say, the water that's coming out of those systems and you would treat it again. And you can do that with a constructed wetland, so a planted area, so it can be quite nice to be around. It doesn't have to be something negative. Because the alternative, and it's, I guess, in the future and in where there's more money available, is going to be membrane systems and higher tech systems where we can actually recycle water at the local scale. But I don't think that's a realistic proposition in low-income areas in Indonesia just now. Maybe in the future it will be part of the whole city arrangements, but for now I think we should look at fixing the institutional setup for Sanimas and adding a second treatment system so that we get a better quality of effluent.
And the last question maybe about regulation, yeah? Which one the best approach?
That's the holy grail.
I think both are important. Bottom up, top down. My experience with the omnibus law has been quite difficult. I think wrote a letter to the House Speaker, and I think probably only one or two of my suggestion was accepted. And those are which somehow relates or justifies the government's a program of expediting investment. So those are related. There are other proposals related to transparency. How do you do risk analysis, and it should be open, everyone should be involved. That was not included. So yeah, it's part of the difficult task in lobbying, but I think more transparency and more participation in regulatory making is absolutely important.
Okay, thank you. It seems we cannot continue in the next round because time is over, yeah? Or you still have time?
Actually, we have
Should go.
We have to go. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we apologize to audience. We cannot open the next session, and yeah, before we part way, I extend my sincere gratitude to Professor Juliet, Dr. Tim Foster, now not mistake again, Dr. Mupa, yeah, for guiding us through this complex topic, yeah, with expertise and clarity. Thank you also to all participants for your engagement. Your perspective had been instrumental in enriching to this roundtable discussion. Yeah, I cannot summarize, but hopefully, team from Center Environmental Study host this roundtable will summarize and sharing them with you as a follow-up. Yeah, this will ensure that we can continue to reflect on our discussion and take forward any action agreed upon. Maybe just my summary, yeah. It seems has become trend, yeah, that multidisciplinary research in WAS, and because it is very complex issue from upper to the lower, yeah, and very variation situation in the world, especially in Indonesia. Yeah. From province, another province is quite vary situation. Yeah, and very difficult again is in slum area. Slum area is very difficult, and even in the village right now is because global change, yeah, climate change, etc. Also, the water, groundwater is become deeper and than before when I was a child. So it is a very big issue. So again, because in this situation, then world's university engagement is very important. Multidisciplinary research is very important, and this thing need leadership. Yeah, without leadership is to manage multi. The same discipline is difficult, and multidiscipline is. Oh yeah. Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay, before we closing this discussion, Prof. Juliet first, and then Dr. Tim and Pak Mova, yeah, for give short closing statement.
So my closing statement is just to really encourage all of you who are here to think about what kind of research and teaching you might do to focus on water and sanitation. I think it's really an issue in Indonesia that needs more attention, and if all the different educational institutions were to give it higher priority and to work in multidisciplinary ways, I think we can really make a good contribution to the country. So I really encourage you all to find your own way to contribute.
Yes, I would echo Juliet's words. No matter what faculty or what school you're from, there is a way to weave water and sanitation into your curriculum and your teaching and your research. And I would really encourage you to do so. It's such an important issue in Indonesia and elsewhere in the world, and it will continue to be important for many years to come.
Not that I'm assuming or accepting the leadership thing, but we are doing quite a lot of WASH project also with Juliet and with other institutions. I think it would be good if we make some research expose next time here, just to give an explanation to different audience, lecturers like this, to give an explanation what are the findings and see how we can contribute in there. Or for example, we can apply some small funding from the government or something like that to improve on piggybacking on our research and our finding. And if probably Juliet is around, maybe we can ask her to come again and do other things on top of that. Yeah, thank you.
Penutupan sesi. Jadi tadi bukanya di podium. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you for joining us today. It has been a pleasure to moderate this session, and I look forward to seeing how the insight again here will influence our working forward. Safe travel and a good health to everyone until we meet again. Most, especially for Professor Juliet and Dr. Tom and Diana, yeah, because we'll long trip. Have a nice trip, yeah. Thank you, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I offer to committee and Pak Budi, yeah. Oh, maybe we have a photo session and yeah. And yeah, yeah, it's there is something we'll give you all from committee. Yeah, please Pak Budi.